everybody. Welcome to the Have You Ever Played podcast, the only podcast that uses tragedy footage in their advertising. I'm Matt, aka Matt Fondude, and who are you?
I'm James, aka Afro4E.
And James, we're just gonna get right into it. The first, this has been a slow week for video game news.
Yeah.
Um, and I did see one headline that really struck out to me. Do you want to read out that headline if
Yes.
you
One
have the
sec.
doc open?
Yeah. Let me just pull it up.
I just
Yes.
want you
So
to
the
take a look at
headline:
it.
War Thunder dev apologizes after accidentally using image of Challenger disaster.
Banger headline. One of the,
Yes.
I was taken aback. I'm like, what could have possibly happened? But now knowing the full story, I can kind of see how that would have easily been a mistake that they could have made. So basically, War Thunder developers, which did you know they're called Gaijin Entertainment,
I
which
did
is a
not.
that's a
I just thought
weird
they're. I
name.
just thought they were called War Thunder Entertainment or something like that.
Yeah, isn't that like what people in Japan call foreigners, like American foreigners or something like that?
No clue.
I don't think it's a very like nice term. But anyway,
Yeah.
they offered an apology after accidentally using a picture of the Space Shuttle Challenger exploding in the game's official artwork. In the doc, I have attached the image. It is the image on the bottom left there, James,
Yeah.
in
I
the
can see
background.
it.
So basically, yeah, in their newest patch, there was a loading screen image and they have a bunch of different jets and things flying around, and there's a bunch of explosions in the background, and one of them just
Hmm.
happens to be the Challenger explosion, which is a very controversial explosion to use an image from because it was when a space shuttle went into orbit and famously had like a teacher on it and it had a bunch of people on it, and the whole country was watching, and it blew up in the
Hmm.
air, and I think everyone died, which was very unfortunate. And it was really, it's basically not the event that you would want to have for your marketing, and yeah, just not a good look. But basically, they apologized and they said that they used an explosion reference pack and they didn't know it had the context, which is
Hmm.
honestly fair enough. If you're using stock images of explosions, you know, they probably didn't know. It doesn't from the image. If you look at it, I guess unless you saw the image before, I would have just thought that was just a random explosion. So I don't think anyone tried to do anything malicious here.
Hmm. Yeah. It happens sometimes. Sometimes you have an image that you think, oh, this perfectly fits what I need, and then boom, it's tied to a very important tragedy.
So yeah, I've had things like this before, and you really do need to be careful where you source your stock images from and
Yeah.
images in general. I have had this worry before when using, like, if I've needed to have a man for a mock-up or something, if I Google man and just pick up a random person, you have to kind of be careful because you could be picking someone that is very controversial, or you could be picking if you don't know what the source image is, you could be accidentally ending up in a situation like this. So
Yeah.
I do think no harm was intended. It's just extremely unfortunate for all parties involved.
Yep. It's
But
generally undesirable situation.
yeah, so I'm assuming they're gonna have to pull the image and
Yeah.
put some new artwork up. But that's an easy fix. But it is unfortunate.
Hmm.
But you know what is not an easy fix in the user's mind? Apparently, the difficulty of Elden Ring's DLC. Now, James, have you
Yeah.
played? We talked about Elden Ring a little bit. You haven't played the DLC since talking about it last, have you?
No. So where I am right now is there's an other game that I'll talk about later that I need to finish before I get back into Elden Ring because I need to make space on my SSD. And where I was with Elden Ring, I don't think I was too far. I think I was like at the gate to the city at the end of Limegrave or something like that. Maybe it wasn't Limegrave, but the gate to the city where you fight the horse guy. I don't remember. It's been like literally 2 years, but currently debating whether I want to restart fully or whether I want to continue the playthrough because I wasn't super far into it.
You should
But
probably just restart.
yeah, I might just restart because with these games, there's always like something into the tutorial or something that they tutorialize that I've missed, and it's like some
Hmm.
mechanic that I'll forget to use for the entire playthrough, and then I'll be like, "Oh, why is this so hard?" And it's like, "Oh, I was supposed to do that."
Yeah, for sure. It's really hard to dive back in, and I think I'm having that problem right now with the DLC a little bit. I did
Yeah.
acclimate pretty well. I'm playing on my previous character that I beat the game with a couple months ago,
Hmm.
and it took me a little bit to get back into the swing of things. But now I have full control over my character again. I so apparently there's been the only articles I've been finding this week are people saying Elden Ring is too difficult, or like the director comes out and comments about Elden Ring's difficulty, or all these different
Yeah.
quotes about Elden Ring being too difficult, the DLC. Now, I've played a little bit more of the DLC. I've only fought the first boss,
Hmm.
and I in one go killed the first boss of the DLC, and it was really
Hmm.
easy. But I'm also using the summon ashes, and I also am using the Moonlight Greatsword and have like a crazy build.
Yeah.
So it's like that. This has kind of been a problem with me with the DLC. I don't really want to go and play it because I'm just destroying everything so easily with
Yeah.
my the build that I have. I mean, I could just not use Spirit Ashes, and that would make it a little bit harder. But it does feel like that's a mechanic of the game, and it should be balanced around that mechanic. But I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah. So a couple things. So first of all, I've heard that the first boss is definitely one of the easier ones. I think what
Okay, good.
lots of people are struggling with was I think this one called Mesmer, and
Mm.
then the final boss of the DLC as well. It's
For
quite funny because
people,
I've been watching a little
spoiler
bit of
light spoilers for people on the DLC
yeah,
about boss names and whatnot. I know some people
yeah,
don't like that.
the dude named Mesmer, but I've been watching a little bit of Kai Cenat's playthrough, and it's actually really interesting the like arc he's gone through
Hmm.
because I think he's like not the person you would expect to advocate for Elden Ring's difficulty, but he's actually like going really hard, saying like the game should be like that, which I thought was really interesting. And as we're speaking right now, I actually just checked. He is 96 hours into his 100-hour stream, and he has over 1,000 deaths. And I believe like 75% of those have been to the final boss. And it's gotten so bad to the point where he called up a therapist to
Sorry, the
come on his
final
stream.
boss of regular Elden Ring or
The
the
final boss of the
DLC?
DLC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he already beat regular Elden Ring. Um, I think it was like a month or two ago. I can't remember exactly, but it was relatively recently. But yeah, he got like a therapist to come on his stream and talk to him between the runs. It was really funny. People were saying that this is Elden Ring's equivalent to pay to win content. Having a therapist with you.
Having that mindset buff.
Yeah, no, but it was funny. I mean, he's honestly like he's I used to think he was just like one of the brain rot streamers, but I guess he's kind of changed a little bit, which is good.
I don't
Elden
really
Ring
know.
changed a man.
All I know about him is I just see clips, like you were saying, like the brain rot clips.
Yeah,
Um, but you know what? Do your own thing. It's good. If people are watching and you're entertaining people, do whatever.
yeah, but also on the difficulty of the DLC thing, I think so. From what I understand, apparently the DLC has stricter scaling, or it just straight up does have scaling. So lots of people who were getting through the game by like stat checking basically are finding that they can't really do that. And to be honest, I think it's a good thing because not that everybody should be spending 100 hours to beat the DLC like Kai Cenat is, but I think that a DLC that comes out 2 years after the game, it should really drag you back into the game. Like I feel like you should be playing this DLC like you were playing Elden Ring originally, and for that to happen, it does need to be harder than the base game because people have
I'm
already acquired
wondering
skills from completing the base game.
if people are playing on characters that are too underleveled and they're trying to just jump into the DLC without spending the time on their characters and builds. because I feel like my build it's not even that crazy. I'm just using the Moonlight Greatsword special attack, which is just busted, and it kills everything. It's like not really
Yeah.
nothing I've encountered has really been crazy.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I'm not sure if it's them being underleveled. I'm not sure the details of how the scaling works. But if it scales to them, then it's definitely not them being underleveled. I think part of it might be some people are just getting into Elden Ring, and even more so than people who are just getting into Souls from when Elden Ring came out. And this is like their first time with a FromSoft DLC. And they're realizing, shit is actually harder than the base game. Like I think of Bloodborne's DLC,
mhm,
like Ludwig, um,
Orphan of Kos,
yeah, Orphan of Kos. Oh crap, the name is I can't remember
the
the name
other
of the
one.
the the lady. Was it Lady
Oh,
Maria or was that
I
Dark
don't
Souls 3?
remember. That game also had like a weird tiger chimera thing, right? As the first enemy, or am I thinking of a different game?
I don't know if it was first, but you might be. I mean, that's kind of similar to Ludwig, or
Am
not?
I
Not
thinking
Ludwig.
of
Ludwig is kind of similar to that. Other
what's the one that has the entrance of the DLC you fight? Or I might be thinking of Dark Souls 1 where
maybe.
in the first boss you fight in the DLC is like this weird like tiger thing that you just like destroy.
Hmm.
I think that's Dark Souls 1. All my souls
Yeah,
blend together in my head. Wow, is
yeah,
that really it for the
happens.
news this week? We had two stories. Just Elden Ring exists still. James,
Yeah.
do you have any other news?
No, I think that's about it. Honestly.
Well, I have prepared for this. I've prepared for this with other segments. I want to talk a little bit about the Nintendo Direct since we haven't talked about that and we talked about all the other directs. Did you watch the Direct at all?
I watched a little bit of it. I sort of skimmed it. I didn't go super into in depth, I guess.
I also skimmed. I went in depth on the things I was interested in and skimmed the other things.
Hmm.
I have some key games that I want to talk about a little bit. The first game they announced was Mario and Luigi Brothership, which is another entry in the Mario and Luigi RPG series.
Hmm.
Um, I've been having an issue with these games since I really loved the first game on the GBA, the Superstar Saga. I thought that was awesome. The DS follow up, Partners in Time, I also really enjoyed. And I guess people really like Bowser's Inside Story and some of the other games. I didn't like those as much, but what I did know is I think a lot of people did not end up liking some of the follow ups like Dream Team and Paper Jam. And there's been a string of bad Mario and Luigi games or mid Mario and Luigi games. And this one kind of looks like a return to form. It looks, I wrote in my notes, looks actually fun.
Hmm.
James, are you aware of the problem of some of the modern Paper Mario slash Mario and Luigi RPG games? Uh,
Not
uh,
really. No, I just know that people have had problems with them, not necessarily what they
so
were.
one of the biggest problems was Nintendo kind of cracking down on unique original characters and basically only using generic Goombas and Toads for characters.
Hmm.
There were in some of these games we would have just these zany, wild character designs, and it seems like they were not allowed to go off script, so they ended up just being like a named regular Goomba would just be
Hmm.
like like a character, and it was just not that fun. But this looks interesting. There's like crazy characters. I think it'll probably be a lot of fun. I'm just gonna quickly go through some of the other announcements since you didn't watch as much, so we can discuss other
Yeah.
stuff. But the Nintendo World Championship NES Edition is a new game that's coming out where it's a bunch of NES games and it's a speed running style game where it almost looks like those NES remix games that came out a while ago where you're revisiting like an old NES game but with different challenge like imposed challenges on the player, and there's some online leaderboards, which I think is a cool way to revisit some old games that doesn't feel like why wouldn't I just emulate this, you know?
Yeah.
It gives a new fresh breath of air to the games. The
Hmm.
next announcement, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. It's the Wii game that was really good. and now you can finally play it because the Wii game made you shake the remote to roll in that game, and then it
Oh
came out on the
god.
3DS, and the 3DS version's probably better, but it's on the 3DS. So
Oh man, the Wii controls classic.
we
Actually,
had some good controls for certain games. This was not one of them.
yeah, that actually reminds me of the Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi games, where I think if you played on the Wiimote, you had to like violently shake during beam struggles. It was insane.
Shake to beam,
Yeah.
or the Call of Duty games, which apparently were actually fun on the Wii because they were their own unique things
Hmm.
with a pointer control. It was kind of an interesting way to play those games.
Yeah.
Speaking of interesting ways to play games, continuing the Nintendo Direct, the new Denpa Men. I have a friend who's listening to the podcast probably right now who loves Denpa Men and turned me on to Denpa Men. It's a weird, like, niche Japanese collecting game where you can collect these weird little men through Wi-Fi signals. You scan Wi-Fi signals, and it's kind of like Pokemon, but with like weird little Tomodachi-esque men.
Hmm.
And they're actually they're traditional JRPGs and kind of like Pokemon-esque, and they're really good. And I cannot believe that we are getting this localized game, although it's free to play. So it's probably going to be hot garbage, but I just cannot believe we got this.
Hmm.
And the last couple announcements here. Did you look at of any of them? I would
Yeah,
say
I looked at the
take a
Legend of
look at this
Zelda
one.
one.
What are your thoughts on the new Legend of Zelda: Echoes of Wisdom?
I think it's interesting. I think people are finally gonna not call be able to not call Link Zelda.
Mhm.
That'll be nice.
They'll call well, they can be wrong but correct at the same
Yeah.
time by being like, "Oh, look, there's Zelda."
Yeah. But I guess I don't have as much experience with Zelda games as some other people do, so I don't have like a very great like frame of reference. But it definitely looks interesting. So much more cartoony art style than what I've seen from the other ones.
Well, it's the art style of Link's Awakening on the Link's Awakening remake on Switch. It seems like they stuck with this like diorama type art style. They might have toned
Hmm.
it down a little bit to give this game kind of its own identity.
Yeah.
It seems like 2D Zelda games are going to look like this from now on for at least a while, which is interesting. I thought it was kind of a one and done with Link's Awakening.
Hmm.
But that art style, that game also ran bad because of that art style. It had a weird depth of field. I don't know. There was some weird. It didn't run at a solid 60, at least from my experiences.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I didn't. I guess in like the trailer and stuff, I didn't notice it as much as you did.
Well, I'm not sure what this game's gonna run. I'm saying Link's
Oh,
Awakening.
you. Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah, Link's Awakening was tough.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I thought you were saying that the game was running bad on the like
Oh no
screen.
no. Also, the copying. So the big ability of this game looks like you can copy things in the environment and then place them anywhere. And the gameplay
Hmm.
seems crazy. It seems like very, very unique, almost
Yeah.
Scribble Knots like.
Hmm. It reminds me a little bit
And
of the Echo thing. Reminds me kind of Kirby a little bit.
yeah, it does have a Kirby energy as well. It's definitely going to be a crazy speedrun game for sure.
Yeah.
With the ability to, like, I'm sure you'll be able to sequence break a lot.
Yeah.
I will say, in a game like this, where you can put platforms anywhere and sequence break, at least from Breath of the Wild when that came out, I think it takes a little bit away from the design of the dungeons and areas when the game has to be designed knowing that you can skip over everything. So I'm
Hmm.
hoping that you're able to do whatever you want, but it's not at the sacrifice of the actual world design being boring and, not as tailored to each individual scenario.
Yeah.
Um, any other thoughts on Zelda?
Mm, don't think so. I think we basically got everything.
Then the last two that I want to talk about are Ace Attorney Investigations Collection. This is a collection of the Miles Edgeworth games, finishing off the Ace Attorney Collections pack. We currently have the original trilogy, the Apollo Justice, and now for the first time because I don't believe they were released. The first game was released in the U.S., but I believe the other games were not ever localized. So it's cool to have them all. You can now play all three games in the same place. You can play them all on PC, and it's cool. That's just exciting. And then
Pog.
I feel like Metroid Prime 4 seeing a title, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond should be a bigger news story. I've just never really played those games. I bet I would like them, but I have nothing to say about it. Like it looks good, I guess. I should play them. That's what I have to say about it.
Hmm.
And that will take us right to the end of that Nintendo Direct recap. And now I've been talking a lot, so James, what would you like to bring it over to?
So there actually is one news thing that I forgot about that happened today, earlier today.
Mm.
So Project Loki officially did their like gameplay reveal. So the NDA is up, and I can actually talk about the game, not to be mysterious anymore. But it's called Supervive now. Do you know what Supervive means, Matt?
I like supervising. Is it a
No, no,
super vive
Supervive,
headset?
like
No,
like
I know.
Supervive.
I understand. I'm looking at it. Supervive,
Yeah.
but you asked, and it sounds like supervise. Is it a hybrid? What does supervive mean?
Okay, so if you were to look up the word Supervive,
Oh, it actually has a meaning.
yes, yes, it's
It's
an
not a made
actual
up
word.
funny
It
word.
God, the origin of this whole thing is very funny. So it's a obsolete word. So it hasn't been
Yes,
used since the 18th century or something. And it means to survive or to outlive. It's meant to be a doublet of survive.
and super.
Oh no, it's just survive. It's not that it's super. It's just you survive or you outlive.
You're
Supervive.
super alive.
No, you just survive.
I'm reading this headline. It just says aims to reinvent the League of Legends for a new generation.
Yeah. So, God, there's
Good
so many
luck with that.
funny. There's so many funny things about that statement. So, first of all, the game is more of a isometric shooter that happens to have abilities like an isometric hero shooter than anything else. They have actually gone out of their way and said they're not a MOBA, which
Interesting.
was, as you can imagine, a wee bit controversial. But the main thing going on right now with the game is that people don't like the name. They're
Supervive.
yeah, they're quite notorious for not having the most apt, we'll say, names. I believe I might have talked about it on the podcast one of these days, where they had changed all the hero names to be their final names and not their code names, and they were
Oh yeah,
all
like Greg.
they were all generally considered to be worse. Like there is a character called Bishop, and her whole thing is that she has a mechanical arm and like this whole suit of armor that fires rockets from her other hand. So she has like a mechanical fist in one hand and a rocket launcher for like her other hand. And she like blasts herself around and fires rockets everywhere and punches people. But she's called Bishop, and her name used to be Rocket Jumper. But yeah, there's some very odd name choices, and something kind of funny that happened with the whole name choice thing is there is another MOBA that's trying to do the whole BR thing called Bap Bap, and
Bap bap.
yes, Bap Bap, just Bap twice, and they quote retweeted the announcement for Supervive, and they said, "And we thought our name was bad."
Supervive. I don't
Yeah,
know. People judge names of things. People thought the Wii was funny. I guess they still think the Wii is funny, but
it was a
you
little
know,
funny, but
I
it
don't
was fine
particularly
for the
think
time.
Supervive is a good name, but maybe if people play it enough, it'll become a household name, like a Fortnite. You know,
Maybe, I
Fortnite's
don't know. I
kind of
feel like
wild.
Fortnite was better because it's like Fortnite was a pun.
That's true.
Yeah,
I
because
put
the
on
original
nothing
game with
really
with Save the World, the idea was it was a survival game. You're trying to survive for a fortnight, and you're making forts at night.
that night.
Yeah,
Build a fort to survive the night.
build a fort to survive the night for a whole fortnight.
Oh man.
Yeah, but anyway, people aren't too crazy about the name. If you want to see there's actually a lot of content on it now because what they actually did was pretty cool. They have a lot of content creators that play tested the game for an extended period, like they were just participating in the regular playtests. because they kind of advertise it towards that crowd. Especially there's some Apex content creators and former Apex players that are really into it. And so what they did is they had them have videos prepared uh, for for this announcement. They had a couple private playtests for them to get footage, and also just to show them what the version of the game that they'd be going to beta with was, so that they didn't explain a character and then have the character be just straight up different when the beta starts.
Hmm.
But yeah, they're going to be doing their next major playtest, I think, on starting Thursday, and it's going to be an 8-day playtest, whereas before they were like 3 days. And yeah, exciting.
Is the
I've
game good?
Ooh, it's an interesting question. um, okay, no. So I think I have not been the biggest fan of some of the balance changes they've chosen to make, but I think fundamentally the game is good. They have a really good movement system. I think if you're into DPS characters or healers, I think you'll have a great time. They have some really fun ones. They even have some fun assassins, even if they're unbelievably broken. But I think unless you're a tank player, you'll probably have a great time.
Well, that's every game.
Yeah. So the problem with Supervive is that the time to kill is very low, and the ways to amplify your damage outweigh the ways that you can amplify your survivability. So like nobody's really actually tanky for the most part, against especially against good players. But I think it's definitely an interesting game. I think it's worth giving a try for anybody that's interested in BRs and isometric shooters.
But
I
not MOBAs. It's not a MOBA.
Yeah, not a MOBA.
It's just
It,
going to be the next League of
in
Legends. It's
reality,
not a
if you're in
MOBA though.
yeah, in reality, if you're into MOBAs, you'll probably like it. They have creeps. They're like neutral camps around the map. That's effectively how you get loot, because you have to kill the neutrals for both levels and they drop items and stuff like that. So it's funny because the way you upgrade your character is inevitably tied to killing creeps, but it's not a MOBA.
Hmm. But so you get items. There's no like money. You don't get money to
There
spend
is
in a
money,
shop.
but there's a shop. There aren't very many shops around the map, and the shop is kind of like it's more for, honestly, I'd say it's more for like catching up in items, because you won't get any of the standard stat items. You'll get like healing items and slightly better armor and stuff like that. Maybe if your loot isn't great, or if you just got revived and you don't have armor, stuff like that. Like I would say you probably won't be using the shop every game.
Hmm.
It's definitely more of a situational thing.
Well, that seems pretty good. I guess you'll have to see how the reception shakes out of the game as more people
Yeah,
play it.
yeah. All the gaming news outlets seem to enjoy it so far,
Hmm.
and from what I've seen, it seems to be capturing audiences within their. It seems to be capturing players within their first 20 hours, which is generally speaking a sign of a game that's going to be successful.
Hmm.
I think
We'll look
that
back on the
the
podcast and be like,
yeah,
"Oh, remember they talked about? They're like, the game is bad or something," and it's just the most Smash success game of all time.
yeah. Speaking of Smash, it actually does have some resemblances to Smash that I think people will like. There's like Abyss and spiking and stuff like that. But
Oh, that's cool.
anyway, back to the point. So I think the issue that they may have is they have said, the studio themselves, they said, we want to make a game that people can put thousands of hours into. And I think the issue that they're going to have is when people are getting past that 100-hour mark, I think there might be a little bit of fall off there. For me personally, I fell out of love with certain aspects of the game after that. I definitely will be getting back into it. But, I kind of burnt myself out a little bit, even though it was only monthly playtests.
I think that is the curse of a monthly playtest, though. Sometimes
Yeah,
people will go so hard during a playtest that when the game actually comes out, they just drop it. Like Dark and Darker, people just
yeah,
drop that game.
yeah. Like the problem I had, I think, was I played the playtests, did all I wanted, and then there was 1 month where I saw the patch notes. I'm like, well, I don't really like these as much. I guess I just won't play. Oh yeah, but again, that's all personal preference. It's probably, especially for people just starting out, it's probably going to be a good time. Would definitely
Well,
recommend.
do you know what will always make you happy?
What?
Buying new games. And it's that time of year again.
Wait, that's just
The
strictly not
Steam,
true.
yes, it's exactly true. The
But if you end up
Steam
not
summer
liking the
sale.
game, you won't be happy.
But all right, let me correct that. Buying games at a steep discount from the Steam sale.
I guess.
So the Steam sale is almost here as of recording this pod. I think it would be
Yes.
kind of fun to go through our wish list on Steam and look and see if there's any games that we would like to purchase, or I kind of end up looking at my wish list and games have gone on sale and I've just never bought them because I'm waiting for maybe a steeper sale.
Yeah, same.
But we can go through that so you can start kind of thinking about that. I also have some other things for my week that I would like to talk about.
Hmm.
So I think keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Start thinking about that a little bit.
Yep.
And I'm going to talk about one thing from my week, and then maybe we can get into some of that.
Hmm.
So I've been playing a board game, a card game based on a video game this week. I out of my closet of games that I have not touched in forever, I dusted off Binding of Isaac, the Four Souls card game, which
Hmm.
is basically a deck. It's interesting. It's kind of like apparently it is similar to a Magic of the Gathering in the way you play it. I don't really play Magic the Gathering, so I don't really know. I'm very out of my element in card games, but
Hmm.
you basically take a character like in the game and you can get items like in the game and it's you build your character and you fight things and get money, etc.
Yep.
Now, the game is very fun. It's one of those games where you play with other people and you're fighting cards, like you're doing a lot of dice rolls and you're not fighting each other directly, but you have a ton of cards that you can play to screw each other over, where you can cancel people's actions or you can make them re-roll, and you have a ton of it's that kind of game.
Hmm.
The problem is it is written so vaguely. The rules and the cards are written so vaguely that they can be interpreted in so many different ways.
Oh no.
And there's like a fan project to compile all of the tweets that they tweeted at uh they tweeted at the developer of Binding of Isaac, like the creator of Binding of Isaac, who I guess can just will rules of the game into existence, but they're tweeting at like for rule clarifications. So they like someone combined a bunch of tweets into an extended rule set to try to clarify things. And during my playthrough, I encountered several different moments in which I didn't know how the rules interpreted, and it basically became like an argument in which like, hey, can I play this card? Does this mean? I'll give you an example. Something is like there's a card where you can. The card says like swap your card with another player, but it
Hmm.
doesn't mention if the other player doesn't have any cards. Can you still take their card and not give them anything? But then there was another card that was like it was it used the term swap on one card, then it used the term like give cards, but it was the same swapping action. So it's like, does
Hmm.
one card mean you can give them and one you can't swap? It was a madness
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah. It
And
reminds me of playing Yu-Gi-Oh with my friends as a kid.
yeah, it's you. Yeah, but Yu-Gi-Oh is very clear on what you can do for the most part.
Not if you don't read the rules.
Okay, that's different. This I did read the rules for this game. That they just don't have very well defined rules. It's too
Yeah.
ambiguous. And then you try to make a crazy play, and then the other player is like, "I don't interpret the rules that way." So then you argue because you're like, "I just did this whole play, and now you're not going to accept my results." You know what I mean? It causes arguments. The game.
Yeah.
And I know there's several expansions which I have not played. I've only played the base game, so maybe they clarify later, or maybe it just makes it more confusing.
Maybe. Who knows?
James, have you played any? Do you have any love for board or card games?
Uh, Not a lot. So I recently played MTG Arena. I guess
Mm-hmm.
not really recent. It's been a little over a year now. Because I have a friend who's a like competitive Magic player. But I found that like decently entertaining. It wasn't the kind of thing I would play long term, but I think there is a little bit deep down in me that's okay with the occasional card game. I'm just not crazy about them.
I find that if it's a card game that's self-contained, I can get into it, but like a Hearthstone or a Magic or something you need to buy cards for to play the game, I can't really get into because I don't want to build a
Yeah.
deck if I don't have all the pieces.
Hmm.
But that Isaac game, I'll report back because I'm enjoying it, but it has been a source of some frustration with weird rulings and weird nonsense. And speaking of weird rulings and weird nonsense, I see the term Apex Legends patch note.
Yes. So there was an there was an Apex Legends patch this week, and it was kind of the a similar story to previously, where they didn't change a lot, but it was funny because on a podcast a while ago, I remember I talked about how there was the whole poison character problem where Caustic, the like poison gas character, is really popular, and so they fixed that. And then the problem was that there was a lot of visual obstruction in the game, and there was a character called Bloodhound whose ultimate let him like get thermal vision. So it's basically every fight, only the Bloodhound would get to do shit, and you would just be getting shot by a guy who you can't see. And so this patch, they fixed it so that thermal vision doesn't see through smoke and gas anymore.
Hmm,
Which
that
so
seems odd.
it solved the whole Bloodhound problem.
But
the The issue is that now what do we have thermal vision for?
yeah, and why?
So
And that doesn't make sense. Like that doesn't make sense for thermal to not work in that way, since that's
yeah,
the point of thermal.
yeah. So they had like a close range thermal optic that they removed from the game, which to be fair, it probably shouldn't have been in the game in the first place. It was kind of cheesy.
Hmm.
But they still have a long range version for snipers exclusively, and it's super rare. You only get it on like care packages. And that's still in the game, but it just can't see through thermal, so it looks really weird. Especially because it highlights people red, so when they're in smoke, you just see nothing. And
Hmm.
because the smoke isn't a solid object, technically there are times where you can kind of get hints of a person. And if you have thermal vision, you just don't get those anymore.
Well, James, what you could do is toggle your cheats on during a live performance during a
Oh
live
yes,
tournament, and then it won't matter if you can't see through smoke because you'll just have your aimbot or just use a controller.
yes, indeed. Or just use a controller, the solution to everything. Uh, but yeah, besides that, they didn't really change too much. There is one kind of interesting thing where to kind of reconcile the removal of the thermal or the nerfing of thermal stuff. When you're in smoke now, if there's another person in smoke within 20 meters of you, you can get like a white highlight or white outline on them, which just it kind of avoids these really weird scenarios where you're fighting somebody and they put down a smoke and then you start playing like Scooby-Doo, you're going in and out of the smoke. They went this way, you go that way, weird
That's
stuff.
a smart choice.
Yeah, I think that was generally a pretty good change. I think also the thermal change, I think it was good for the game, but I think they need to reconsider how they're going to design around that in the future.
Yeah, it's like, what is the point? I guess you could see people when they're not in that scenario.
Yeah. But yeah, and then also with the update they added quads. So at the start of the season, they tried solos, which was really funny because I think it was in late 2019. They tried solos in Apex, and they were like, they basically said after they did their little limited time mode for it, yeah, we don't think solos are actually healthy for the game. You know, Apex is a very team based game with the way that the characters work and stuff like that. It probably just isn't a great game for solos, and people were upset about that for almost 5 years. And then they kind of caved this season, and they said like, okay, we're gonna bring Souls back for 6 weeks, see how you like it, and they added a bunch of new systems to make it more bearable. You get told when there's somebody near you. You don't get told where they are, but you just get a little notification like, hey, there's somebody within 50 meters, so you don't just die to somebody sitting in a corner.
Does that work for multiple people? Will it alert you that like 10 people are around you?
I think it just alerts you that people are nearby. I don't think it gives an exact number,
Hmm.
but and then also they made it so all the guns you pick up start off like attachments don't spawn on the ground. Basically, it's just the guns have different levels to them. So you can get like a level 1 assault rifle and it would have level 1 attachments, or you can find like a level 2 assault rifle, stuff like that. Just to make the looting process a little more streamlined. which I think is actually a pretty good general change. And I'd probably want to see it in the base game, to be honest. Definitely would not mind that. But yeah, so they brought back solos for a bit, and they had it replace duos, so they only have two uh, public match playlists at a time, or non-ranked public match playlists at a time for BR. So they replaced duos for a bit, and some people are kind of upset because some people just really like playing duos. And then now, as soon as that has ended, they've added quads to replace duos. And quads are really funny because Apex previously only ever had support for 3 people in a lobby. So people are getting some bugs. To be fair, it's not as buggy as you would imagine. It's not like people are getting your ranked games as a quad or something like that.
Hmm.
But there's a couple bugs with it, and one thing that some people have noticed is the way they fit the fourth person in the lobby is they've taken the regular 3-man lobby, they've just scaled it down, moved it a little bit to the left, and added the fourth guy. And then with
Well, it
the
seems almost like
health
they're testing
bars,
the waters.
yeah, yeah, I think it's definitely lots of this stuff recently. It's probably been large scale play testing. But what was the last thing? Oh, with the health bars, they didn't adjust the size of the UI or anything, and just added another health bar on top for the fourth person. So it looks a little goofy because it's something that's on your screen now that like wasn't there before, so it just looks weird.
Again, testing the
Yeah.
waters very, very clearly.
Yeah. Besides that though, the I think it's generally gone okay. It hasn't been very long. The update actually only came out earlier today. But yeah, quads are definitely interesting. People are going to be doing some really cheesy stuff in it. I think after a week or two, we're definitely going to be seeing some unspeakable horrors.
Speaking of unspeakable horrors, let's direct our attention back to our Steam wish lists, and
Yes.
let's go through this because the sale is coming up.
Hmm.
And if you want to send us your wish listed games that you're looking forward to for the next sale, you can message us at hyeppodcast@gmail.com. That's hyeppodcast at gmail.com. You can also send us questions we answer sometimes at the end of the episode. But James, do you have anything sticking out at you right away? I'll go through mine as well.
Yeah, so I've got near automata. I've had this on my
Mm.
wish list for a really long time. I just need to buy it eventually. I have this one's actually interesting because I have this on my wish list from like back in 2020 when a friend in college recommended it to me. Mo Astray.
What is that?
Um, so from what I understand, it's like a puzzle platformer with this pixelated art style. It looks like it looks like one of those pixelated games that has a lot of random blood, but it also has a
Mhm.
really over the top concept with like really big monsters and stuff like that, and mech suits. So yeah, it definitely looks interesting. Has some aliens and stuff. I've got Sonic Frontiers, which has been here for like 2 years now.
A classic. I might pick
Yeah,
that up as well.
a classic.
We
Then I've
should
got some.
we should go back. We should alternate so we can keep it going too.
Yeah, yeah, that'd probably be
I
better.
yeah, I know. I'm glad you're enthusiastic about the wish list though. I'm
Yep.
your initial thoughts on the sale were putting me in my in a sour mood because I was so excited about deals. But
Yes.
there's the game Tunic. It's like a Legend of Zelda type game where you're like a little fox. It has a really nice
Hmm.
art style similar to that new Zelda game. That game I don't think ever really goes on sale, but I'll pick it up one of these days.
Hmm.
What about you?
Um, let me see. I've got. I guess I'll just kind of group all these together. I've just got some Doom likes. I guess I've got Turbo Overkill, and Dead Link.
Hmm.
Which are
Were
so
those? Are those PS1 style? What are they?
I wouldn't really say PS1 style. So Dead Link is like a cyberpunk action roguelike. It's also an FPS. I guess it's a little more like Wolfenstein than Doom, but yeah. And then Turbo Overkill. I believe the selling point of this was that you have a chainsaw in your leg.
That's a good selling point. That's
Yeah,
a good point to
that's
have.
all. That's all you got to know.
All right, that's kind of sick. Is that like a more indie game?
Let me check actually. So it's made by Trigger Happy Interactive.
Trigger happy. Hmm. I don't
Yeah,
think
I
I know
guess
them.
I guess they lean more into indie. They've made some. Their other game, Turbo Stone, is like an OG Doom like. It even replicates the art style. Seems like they just really like Doom.
Hmm. I mean, who doesn't like Doom at this
Yeah,
point?
Doom
Boomer
good.
shooters. I have Baldur's Gate 3, which I know goes on sale. It's only been on sale for like 20% off. I'm waiting.
Hmm.
I know this game will go on sale for like $30 or something like that eventually, and it's worth. I assume it is worth every penny, even at full price. It's more of a list of games that I'm already playing. I don't need to play this at the moment, and when
Yeah.
it's affordable, like when it's cheaper, I will pick it up because I'll probably have time to play it. It's worth waiting on. I don't need it right now.
Hmm. All right, and then for me, sorry, I need to get past all the unreleased games that I've
Yeah,
wishlisted.
I'm also just scrolling
Yeah,
through.
yeah,
I've
I've
skipped
got
a
like
lot of
Risk of Rain
games.
2, I've got Hyper Lightbreaker, like I've just got all this junk.
Hey, Risk of Rain 2 is not junk. That's a good game.
Yeah, or rather Risk of Rain 2 Seeker of the Storm.
Uh,
Yeah, there's all this unreleased stuff that's just it's taking up space. But yeah, the next actual game is Hades 2. It probably won't go on sale, honestly, especially since it's still early access.
hmm.
But I definitely do need to buy this. It's only $30. I've heard very good
Yeah, you
things
might get
about it.
like a 10% off on that.
Maybe.
I keep forgetting that that's even out because it's technically, I guess, isn't fully out. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do what I should have done with the first game, and I'm gonna wait until it's fully out.
Yeah, I might wait as well. I've actually heard it's got more content in it already than the original Hades did.
Well, I'm sure it's good. It's just you're gonna
Yeah.
play it all, and then you're not gonna want to come back to play the new content.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
what happened to me.
I think one of the main things that people have or one of the main things I've heard people talk about is that there's this really funny scenario where there's a character who's supposed to be like the most beautiful person in Greek history or something, but they don't have a character model. So they're just a guy in like a cloak.
That's kind of better in a way.
Yeah, it actually is. It is ironically very funny. I guess unironically very funny. Whatever. It would be a good joke if that was actually what he looked like.
What's kind of funny is wait, is it your? I don't want to like steal your game. I immediately lost track.
It's on you.
Oh, so I have a game on my wish list. As I'm going through my wish list, a lot of them are already on sale,
Hmm.
unrelated to the Steam sale. There's a game called Peglin, which is Goblin Peggle, and it's
Hmm.
a Peggle like or pachinko-y Peggle like game in which it's also I guess turn based RPG. So it's combining weird Peggle slash uh pachinko mechanics with an RPG. And it's only $20 now, and it goes on sale a lot, but it's never been. I'll buy this game for maybe like $5 or something like that, because I read a lot of the reviews, and a lot of the reviews are kind of mostly positive but slightly mixed.
Hmm.
So I've been waiting for a steep discount on that one. It's also early access. It's been in
Yeah.
early access for a while.
All right. So my turn. This is actually my last one. It is Lies of P.
Oh
So
yeah.
this is actually a really interesting one because so when it first came out, I kind of breezed past it. I was like, oh, it's just it's a Souls like that's trying to do the Bloodborne thing. It's probably just gonna be meh. But from what I've actually heard people say it's the best Souls game they've ever or Souls like they've ever played,
Hmm.
including the Souls games. It is
I've seen.
insanely high praise, and I think what I've mainly seen is people have said that the combat is really exceptional. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it when it goes on sale.
I think that
Might
game
probably gonna have to
has
give it a
to
try.
be.
Yeah, probably gonna have to give it a try after Elden Ring though. Unfortunately.
Yeah, for sure. I think that game has to be good because I think the concept of Pinocchio is really lame for that kind of a game. It's so lame and stinky bad. When I saw it, everyone groaned and said, "This is lame and stinky bad." And for me to only see positive things, that game has to be fire. Like it has to be good because people were so ready to hate it. It would be so easy to hate. But it
I don't
seems
know,
like
man.
it's very good.
I think Pinocchio's all right.
I don't think Pinocchio is not cool. I guess. I mean, the Guillermo del Toro Pinocchio was good. It's just I think when you see a man running around in weird Pinocchio type clothes in a Bloodborne game, it was kind of like, oh wow, this is gonna probably be bad. It's
True.
like how we saw 77 Souls like games being announced at the Game Awards and all these things, or not Game Awards, but the Summer Games Fest.
Hmm. Yeah,
Some other games on my
Summer Games
list.
Fest was, oh my lord.
So,
I'd actually like deleted Summer Games Fest from my memory. I just remembered all that happened.
and the Xbox, how could you? There was like collectively like 6 hours of announcements of the same game.
Yep.
I'm gonna rapid fire a couple from my list since you've run out. Dragon
Hmm.
Quest Treasures, it's already on sale right now, but it's half off, but it's $25. I want to pick the
Yep.
game up for like 15 maybe. I don't think it'll ever go that low, so I probably should just buy it.
Hmm.
Um, Let me look around here. There is. I want to get Last of Us. I've never played it. I want that on a steep discount. There
Hmm.
is the Another Crab's Treasure, which is that other Souls-like game where you're playing a hermit crab. I don't know if we've talked about that. That seems kind of interesting. People seem to like
I
it.
think we've talked about it.
What else do we got on here? A lot of my games are on sale right now, which is cool. Where is something else? Something else. Here's also. It's wild to me that Sonic Frontiers is $60 right now. I mean, it makes sense, and that game always goes on sale for like $5 or something like that. It's just funny to. It is funny. There are certain games on Steam that if you didn't know the Steam sale strategy, you would pay $60 for it, and it's like I would never pay $60 for that game because I know it'll always be five. Like I cannot, in good faith, pay that money. Bug Fables, I'll pick up. I was really tempted to pick up that game. It's like a Paper Mario type game.
Hmm.
When that was on sale. Yeah, I got a ton of random stuff on here. I don't need to go through it all. There's a lot. I
Hmm.
just love buying games so I can never play them.
I heckin' love spending money.
Discounted money.
Yes.
But let's go into. We actually have some time this week because the news was kind of light. Let's get into
Hmm.
some questions. I have two questions that I carefully crafted myself, and I would like to ask you: is stealth in gaming ever fun?
I
That's
am
my
actually,
question.
yeah, maybe I'm in the minority. I think stealth is actually usually fun.
I don't like stealth at all, and like any game that it's in, unless
Yeah,
it's maybe designed for it, and then even then,
yeah,
I'm
I
not a
think
fan.
if the game is built for stealth, then it's usually fine. I think the issue is when it's kind of shoehorned into the game. In which case, I don't think it's that stealth is inherently unfun. I just think the game hasn't implemented it very well.
I think the problem is unless it is like a Metal Gear Solid or a Splinter Cell or an Assassin's Creed, like unless the game is a stealth game, it is shoehorned. Like it's so shoehorned into everything, and it has never been good in a shoehorned scenario.
Yeah, I think there are times when stealth is necessary narratively, but I know that more games have been making stealth optional, from what I understand. So I guess it's less of a complaint nowadays. Because I think the big frustration with it was when you would have a stealth mission, and if you got discovered, you'd fail.
Yeah.
And if it's like not a stealth game, I think I guess what I think about with stealth games that or with games that have stealth but aren't necessarily stealth games is like the Batman Arkham series and games inspired by it, like the Spider-Man series. I think they do stealth pretty well, but a big part of it is that there are a bunch of gadgets that are at your disposal that allow you to mix up the stealth a little more than just I sneak up on this guy and do the stealth attack on him.
Hmm. I think that I have some sort of lasting stealth aversion because whenever I play a game that has stealth, like Cyberpunk, will
Hmm.
have stealth. I will always try to, even if I'm not playing a stealthy character, and I think I got out of this recently by playing a melee build. I would always start by stealthing, and I would realize, what am I doing? There's no point because nothing is bad from stealth. Like if you alert the guards, there's nothing bad will happen to you. It's just a different playstyle. And I'm using melee, so I might as well run around. And I kind of broke the curse a little bit on that, but Yeah, certain games I will, if it has stealth, I will kind of force myself into the stealth, even if I'm not enjoying it. And even if it is optional, I feel like I'm forced to interact with the stealth mechanics, and that's kind of what takes me out of it a bit. I do think so. The Metal Gear Solid series does have really cool, rewarding stealth, but I do also think that that game series. I don't know if you feel this way, but when I played the Metal Gear games, a lot of them have a non-lethal option where you can use a tranquilizer, and it's usually just one tranquilizer gun, or there's like two guns in the game that are tranks,
Hmm.
and then it makes you never use the like 100 fun items that are in the game.
Yeah, yeah. I think having the whole lethal versus non-lethal thing. Some games like
Well,
Dishonored,
Dishonored did this
yeah,
too. Yeah,
Dishonored executed it. I think Dishonored actually executed it all right. I don't think they did the worst. A big part of it was that they made it influence your ending and stuff like that.
yeah, but then
But
the fun attacks in Dishonored, like you don't get to use any of those if you're going for the stealth. Like, you don't.
yeah,
I, I think that's the
it's weird.
problem is they don't replace it with anything interesting.
They
Like
make
so,
homicide too cool in these games.
they do. That's the problem. Like I've seen footage of people playing Metal Gear Solid 5 and you're running around with a rocket launcher on the D Walker and you're blowing things up and you're doing all that. I'm like, I didn't do any of that. I sent Quiet in and she neutralized everyone with like tranks and I never actually like fired a gun basically.
Hmm.
I'm like, man, I'm kind of missing out. Like it seems way more fun to go in run and gun in a lot of these scenarios. Like there's a lot more
Yeah,
things. Like why do they code 100 items? I guess so you can play it in your own way, but I feel it's almost like a rule breaker thing. I think it's like a mental block where I feel like I'm breaking the rules if there's stealth. If I do something non-stealthy.
I think the problem is that non-lethal gameplay as well, like we were talking about before. It it's not so not wanting to kill the people that you are doing the stealthy stuff on does not necessarily associate itself with a singular play style, but it's usually put under a singular play style because of the methods of uh non-lethal stuff.
Well,
And
I
then when speaking about like, yeah, I mean, when just speaking about like the general variety and like having options for everybody, I do agree that there's not, definitely not as many as there could be non in these non strictly stealth games.
I think a good solution to it, and some games do this, is just make us a non-lethal version of the weapon and make that weapon just be the same as the lethal, but just say non-lethal. Like in Cyberpunk, smash people in the face with a sledgehammer, but it's technically non-lethal as long as I don't finish them off. It counts. So I never really felt bad about. I didn't feel like I had to go out of my way. Although non-lethal in games is usually designated as the challenge run. That's you're supposed to do that as a challenge. But it also feels like especially like a Metal Gear, it almost feels like that was the way the game was intended to be played, and to go full crazy was not how it was intended to be played.
I think part of the problem with just having non lethal versions of everything though is that you need to make a players actually believe it's non lethal. Like you can't just say, oh, it's a non lethal bullet for sure, 100% definitely you
Rubber
didn't kill
rubber
that guy.
bullet, easy.
Yeah, it's kind of like the whole Batman Arkham game thing where it's like, yeah, Batman definitely didn't just kill that guy whose head he put under a tire and then started up his Batmobile.
Yeah, that was a rubber rocket. That was a rubber head that he ran over.
Yeah,
It is wild. I mean, Spider-Man does that where it always tries to show you not killing them, even though you can
yeah,
attach them to exploding cars and stuff.
yeah. Or like when you throw people off the roof, it always has them like some random web will just attach them to a
Yeah.
wall. It's very obviously not coming from you.
Hmm.
It'll just kind of happen.
Well, that was that question. Now, here's another question I cooked up. Now, this is a really vague question. I think I wrote what character archetype do you not enjoy in gaming? Healer, tank, DPS, rogue, etc. I think I mean more classes, not the classic healer, tank, DPS. For example, I was just gonna talk about in a game. If you have the choice of, oh, I want to be the katana guy, I want to be the dual wielder, the big hammer, I want to be, you know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah.
really break it down to a niche. Like what do you hate? Like what is a character that you'll never play?
Probably just mages in general.
Just any kind of mage.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of the whole spell casting with a wand thing. It doesn't feel very like visceral. It doesn't feel like I'm the one doing the hits.
I feel that. I think there are some games that do mage really well. I think honestly,
Hmm.
this is probably controversial because I think people don't like magic in Skyrim, but I think the magic in Skyrim actually feels kind of fun. I think that was
Hmm.
I had a lot of fun in that game because I don't think there's anything quite like it. It is very simple, but it's I don't know. I enjoyed that always the magic system.
Yeah. Hmm.
I, certain games can have advanced crazy wizard stuff though that I also fall off of and I can't really enjoy. I'm a very straightforward, simple. Give me the most simple, straightforward character. As a kid, I used to be a dual sword or katana or dual dagger person, and I definitely grew out of that into a two-handed big club thing arc. Blunt two hand is kind of my archetype.
Hmm.
Did you ever grow at all in your what you thought was cool as a kid in terms of games, like what you played?
Yeah, I used to be like an assassin guy, but now I'm mostly a tank, like two-handed weapon guy.
Oh, is assassin a young man's class? Is
Yeah,
but
it's definitely a zoomer class.
see, I love glass cannon though. I just don't like stealth. I don't like to go invisible and backstab. Like I don't like
Yeah,
backstabbing and that.
yeah. I'm honestly I'm just too lazy for backstabbing.
I don't find it fun to be
Yeah,
stealthy like that or to get dagger crits and bleed, and it's usually a lot of status management too. It's like, "Oh, I apply
yeah,
bleed and cut and all these stacks." I want to
yeah.
do one
Definitely.
big burst of damage that's high risk high reward.
Hmm.
That's kind of how I find fun, which kind of goes to all the characters and game. All the things that I play are usually very high risk, high reward.
Hmm.
But unless you have anything else to add, I think that's a podcast. I think we've really covered it all.
Yeah, that is it for me.
That was an efficient pod.
Yes, we did the
um,
efficiency good.
I'm Matt, aka Matt Fondude. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter and YouTube, specifically YouTube a lot. That's where I upload a lot of the stuff. And who are you?
I'm James, aka Afro4E. You can find me on Twitch and Twitter. I'm going to try to start streaming more. Maybe I might stream the Supervive playtests. Honestly,
You should stream so I can come bully you in chat. So I
yeah,
can be like, "What
yeah.
is this game?"
You can watch my solo queue suffering in Supervive. By the way,
I'll just.
Supervive definitely not a solo queue game. If you can, get your friends.
How many people is it? Like a 5v5,
It's four, so it's got a
4v4.
BR mode and it's got a 4v4 arena mode,
That's
and it
not
also
too
has
bad.
duos.
Four duo and four is doable. Trying to get like 6 or 5 people together, it's like almost
Yeah,
impossible.
yeah, definitely.
All right,
Big groups are
well,
hard.
this is the end of the pod. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.